Get going. This is do not fear the command line because you are smarter than it. Just remember, you're smarter than any computer so far. My name is PeterChittum. I lead the developer evangelist team here in EMEA. And if you want to tweet at me, about me, try and keep it civil. I'm at PeterChittum. This is the forward-looking statement. I'm going to do some fun stuff with this, with the command line a little bit later. I may make forward-looking statements, and if I don't, do not use that information to make any purchasing decisions. I designed this particular talk around the idea that this new command line interface with Salesforce DX was coming out, and we're adding a lot of features that make developer productivity better in Salesforce. But I think there are a lot of people who use Salesforce that didn't grow up using the command line, or maybe they used to use it, but we haven't had really good command line tools in the past. And so I thought, I just want to help people understand the command line better, and also get better at it myself, because, I kind of did DOS way back in the 1990s when I first started. And before that, I had done VAX VMS. So like Unix and Bash was not really something that I was really keen on for a long time. So if you want to use the command line and you're not sure where to start, this is the talk for you. All right, excellent, people are smiling. Now what this isn't is an exhaustive how-to talk. I've got 25 minutes, I've got to get in and out. So what I want you to do is understand how command line apps work, just in general. I want you to just kind of understand what's possible, and then also give a little small taste of Salesforce DX. And I would really recommend you come back later this afternoon to, and I can't remember how to pronounce your name again. Yaitha. So Yaitha is going to be going through a proper Salesforce DX process and flow for developers. So this is kind of a little introduction to command line and a taste of DX. And then Yaitha's talk is going to be like the deep dive into using DX. So it's a good complementary set of talks. Now I'm using a Mac. I just bring that up because command line flavors are different between Mac, Windows, Linux. So Windows users? Yeah, a little more than half. Mac users? Yeah, okay, about 50. It's close to 50-50. Linux users? Linux. Ah, okay, yeah. So usually the Linux users are the ones who are like, yeah, I really don't need the command line one because I rock that already. So there we go. So my agenda is an overview of command lines, talk about how command lines work, talk about some of the workhorse commands, some of the more powerful things you can do. I'll talk about the Salesforce CLIs, and then I'm probably just going to rush through that last section because the way my timing has been, it's been a little tight on 25 minutes. So a little history of user interfaces, because that's essentially what the command line is a user interface. And we started with this. Did anyone ever do programming with these in the room? Yeah, me neither, and thank God, right? Somebody would type these out, right? And basically each card was a line of code or a line of data. And then you'd feed it into a machine, and you'd wait, and then it would come back and maybe tell you what you wanted, or maybe tell you that actually didn't work, you have a bug. So I'm sure that was lots of fun, but then they realized, we could do this and then get feedback right away on a teletype. And then they realized, actually, we don't have to waste paper because now we have cathode ray tubes. And this is actually where command line shells really started to come to the forefront. And this was like the 1960s, 1970s. So command lines have been around for a long time, but the fact that we still use them, I think, speaks to how powerful they are. They're still very effective tools. But then we realized, actually, it'd be cool if we had a menu. So we started building menus, and then we started drawing pictures, and pictures are cool. And then we realized, God, if we drew a picture and you could click on that, that would be even more awesome. And that's what a graphical user interface. It's actually just a shell, but with pictures is really one way to think of it. But the problem with menus and graphical user interfaces is, unless it's exposed, right, unless you build the thing that's going to expose that, the menu item or the thing you click on in the GUI, you can't do it, right? And that's kind of where command lines come back in, is that command lines tend to expose more stuff to us as computer users, right? And then, user interfaces are moving on. We're still trying to figure out how to get the VR thing to really work. That's me using an Oculus at Dreamforce last year as a user interface, actually, that one of my team built. So And part of the reason I'm talking about this is that I fundamentally believe that this is my most important tool. Who here works with computers? Yeah, so the better you know how to use this thing, I think the more effective you can be. And I believe that for myself. I'm still lazy, I still need motivation to learn things. And Salesforce DX is kind of doing a good job of that. I have kind of this pros and cons list, and so what's great about command lines is they tend to be low resource usage, they're fast, they're powerful, they're concise, you can do scripting. On the pro side there, they also have expert friendly, and that is really only a pro if you're an expert. So really, actually, that's a con for most of us. And they are kind of unintuitive, and the commands aren't obvious. And if you're not sure what they're doing or how to learn, and the manual files that come with them, unless you know how to read a manual file, it can be a little bit confusing. So that's really kind of why I wanted to go into this. So a few obvious statements, right? What is a command line? It's an app. Okay, it's an app that runs commands, right? That's what they call it, a command line. And so what is a command? It's actually just another app. So your command line is an app that runs other apps, is the best way to think of it, okay? All right, drop the mic, job done, I can go home, right? All right, let's move on to, so how do these things work, right? The way that a command works is you have something that's going to run an algorithm, right? Or some logic. And you have some data that comes into that, and some data that flows out of that. And the data that comes in is going to be a file, often, or it could just be what's called a stream of data, and we call that stream standard in, or std in. Okay? And then when the command's done with what it's doing, then some data flows back out of that, and we call that standard out. There's another output that can come if it fails, and that's called standard error, ERR. I'm not going to get into that today. I just want to focus on these high-level concepts. So what does this sound like in the world of Salesforce to you? I have some data that flows in, I run some logic on it, and some data that flows back out again, or that presents some transformed data. Anyone want to take a guess where I'm going with this? Data in, perform some functions on it, and then I see different data. Does that sound like a formula field to you? That's kind of what a formula field is, isn't it? So actually, who's written a formula field here? Yeah? You already have all the tools that you need to know to use the command line, actually. It's not actually no more complicated than writing a complex formula, and it's actually easier to read once you understand how it's structured. So don't be afraid of this thing. In fact, I have this as an example. This is the case safe ID function. What does this one do? Anyone know? Yeah, it converts the 15-character ID that we store in the database to save space to the 18-character ID that works for Microsoft because Microsoft doesn't do case-insensitive uniqueness very well, right? So there we go. So that's actually kind of how command line commands work. But command line commands also have parameters, so I can change the way that the algorithm actually works sometimes. So if my algorithm was dance, right? I could have one input that says flamenco, right? And so something like that. And I can another one that's like paso doble. That's probably more like paso doble, that one. So Spanish dance, not my forte. But yeah, so that's the idea. Is the algorithm, we're going to do something, right? Something similar, but we want to change slightly how that output occurs. That's what parameters give us, okay? All right, and then we can string these guys together. This is really cool. And this is kind of, who's ever nested, those of you who've done formulas in Salesforce, nested one function inside of another function, inside of another function, right? The way that this works with the command line is you sort of string them together. And one way to do that is just with a semicolon. This will be do this and then the next thing. And they will both always happen. You could also say do the first one, but only do the second one if the first one is successful. So that's handy. And then we can also say do the first one and then take the standard out from that one and stream it into the standard in of the next one. And this is where we can start to do really powerful things because we can take data, transform it, pass it to another command, transform it a different way, and then come out with something completely different. And I'll show you an example of that at the end of my talk. We can also redirect, so this is how we take that standard out and write it to the file system. This will always replace. So you can also do double greater than, and it will append to the end of the file. Okay, so those are just a few things, a few basic features of how these things work, and I'll go in and do a demo. Again, just a reminder, I'm demoing on Mac. If you're using Windows, if you're in Windows 10, you can actually install Bash, which is the same command line that I'm using today, the same shell I'm using today. Cygwin is sort of pseudo Bash for Windows. It's kind of the precursor to actually running a proper Bash shell. And then CMD and PowerShell are native command line apps for Windows, if you want to play with those. And pretty much everything I'm going to do today, you can do with some combination of these. So just bear that in mind in case you're worried and you see me doing a whole bunch of stuff in the command line. So this is kind of how I like to start, because I just want to do some file system things just to kind of get you familiar with things you're already familiar with. So at the top I have the Finder, at the bottom I have my command line. I could probably make that a little bit bigger. There we go. And so the first thing I want is I want a new directory. Actually, what's in this directory, right? So here I'm in the CLI test, right? You can see there's a CLI test right there. So whatever I type here, like ls, it's going to just show me the same thing. So demo, play, revert. So this one is nested under that one, which is why it's not showing up. That's a directory, that's a file. I can get more information, lsal, there we go, and I can actually see the sort of up and down directory commands as well as a hidden file in there. So pretty basic stuff. I want to make a directory, mkdir. So there's a lot of abbreviation in Bash because it came from the time when you only had a certain number of characters to work with on a line. Right? And that's why they aren't like super long commands, why they're unintuitive. The fewer characters you had, the more stuff you could do, basically. So mkdir demo 1, and then I can do change directory, cd to demo 1. And then there's a couple of nice little, if I tab, it's going to go in and kind of start to fill out stuff, and it'll show me like other options as well if I keep on tabbing. And so I can see, well, I want demo 1 actually. And now if I do ls-al, inside of demo 1 is empty, so I'll make a file with touch, a file, a-file. Okay, and there it goes, pops up, and I can remove it, rm, a file. Now I'm tabbing again, you know, and so it just auto-fills that for me. And then I can do other things, like I can do echo. Echo just, let me clear, so I can get back up there. So echo, hello, for instance, okay? Now Mac is really fun. It has this thing called say.
Hello.
Okay, we're going to really annoy the people next to us. So, and so if I do echo hello, what can I do to then like say hello after that? I could do a semicolon, say hello. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, that's a colon, not a semicolon, Peter.
Hello.
All right, but I actually don't need to do the second hello. There's an important principle in computing of don't repeat yourself. So I can do pipe, right? Remember the output we can pass to the input of the next, and so and it works just great. Now I can also take echo hello, and instead of piping it, I can redirect it to a file. We'll call it hello.txt. And there we go, see it pop up there. And if I want to see the contents of the file, I can do cat hello.txt. And cat actually stands for concatenate, so if I reference hello.txt twice, I'll see it twice, right? Or I could actually do just a bunch more of these. Actually, let me append, so echo hello, and then append, and then I can do like that. And then if I cat, I have hello.txt. Let's try that again. If I do up arrow, it'll go back to the last command. So I can actually go back through the history. There we go. And then we can have lots of fun. I can do cat hello.txt to say.
Hello.
That's really loud, isn't it? I'm going to turn it down just a little. And then, but I can actually do it in different voices as well. Like for instance, minus B Monica, I learned, is the Spanish. Yeah, that doesn't really work. But if I did say minus B, say hola minus B Monica. Oh, there we go. That's much better. Yeah. All right. So that's just a little bit of fun to show you a few of the things that the way that command lines work, right? So I have apps. They have data that goes in. They have data that comes out. I can pass the data. I can redirect the data. I can append the data to files. and I can use the speaker. All right, so sound good? Good so far? All right. Like I said, I'm going to cover a lot of stuff. This isn't the exhaustive, treatment of this. What you should do is let it wash over you. Oh, there we go. And, learn more stuff later on. So let's move on to some of the real workhorse commands. Now, some of those commands started to get really long, and some of the ones I'm going to do later are much longer. And if you have a command that you do over and over again and you're tired of typing it, you can do an alias, and basically it's a shortcut for that longer command. Thank you. There's also cat. I showed you cat earlier, which is concatenate. There's also head. And there's tail. So it's like this is kind of an anatomy class at this point. So head will take the first n number of lines in a file or in a stream, and tail will be the last n number of lines in a file or a stream. Okay? There's dog. Actually, there isn't a dog. But remember alias, right? You could actually make something called dog really easily if you wanted to. Okay. WC, this isn't about using the toilet. This is called word count. If you want to count stuff in files or in streams, like how many lines, how many characters, how many words, WC is very useful for that. Find, you can go look for files by name, but even more powerful than that is something called grep. And here's one of those funny ones. It stands for General Regular Expression Print. Regular expressions are just sort of like really powerful wildcards is one way to think of them. Basically it does pattern matching. So what you can do is search in files for the lines that have matching patterns. And I'll show you this because this is where you can start to do some really fun stuff. The other one that is used a lot and is also super powerful is called sed, which is Stream Editor. And with Stream Editor, you can essentially take some data that's going through the stream or pull it up from a file and make changes to it. So imagine, remember the last time you had to export a bunch of stuff to a CSV file and edit it in Excel, right? Imagine just doing that from the command line as a command. That's really cool, and I'll show you that as well. So let's jump in. I'll do the Stream Editor one. Yeah, I'll do the editing the CSV at the end. But let's do the next demo here. Right. So here I'm in my demo 2, and because everybody loves it, I thought I would show you the forward-looking statement again. And so if I cat forward-looking.txt, you can see the forward-looking statement. It's kind of long though, and I've always thought it was a bit too long, right? So what I could do is I could do something like I could do head minus n5 forward-looking.txt. That's much better. It's only like 5 lines long, but somebody might notice the end is missing. So what I'll do is I'm just going to redirect this to a file, and we'll call this the shorter-looking statement.txt. And then I'm also going to take the tail minus n5 of forward-looking. I'm going to append that to shorter-looking.txt. And now if I cat shorter-looking statement, there we go. We have our abridged forward-looking statement. And then we could just say that, which I won't do because that gets annoying, I realize. So what else can we do with this? We can do grep. So for instance, I could go in and show me all the lines with the word grep. With the word statement in it. So if I do clear, just to get up there, and we'll do grep. We want to look for the word statement from forward-looking.txt, and there we go. So we have every line that has the word statement in it, and I'm kind of bored with statements myself, so I'm actually going to change that with sed. So I'm going to do a substitute. I'm going to look for the word statement, and you guys help me out. What should I have instead of forward-looking statements? What else could I have? Forward-looking something else?
Guesses.
Guesses? Guesses. Forward-looking guesses. That's good. All right. Sometimes they are. You never know. And then, there we go. So, this presentation may contain forward-looking guesses. Oh, except, it doesn't really work with that form of pluralization in English, but there you go. So the one I was playing with earlier was tortilla. There we go. Certain forward-looking tortillas. There we go. And where are we? Forward-looking. So I guess is tortillas. Any tortillas regarding strategy? My favorite, though, where is it? Tortillas of belief. That just sounds like so there we go. So that's rep and said and cat, head, tail. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation. All right. So moving on, and let's talk about the Salesforce command lines. The first one I'll just mention, thank you, is the Salesforce DX CLI. Okay. Now, Salesforce DX is a bunch of things. It's not just a command line. It's a set of features, functionality, APIs. It's the command line interface. It's other tools. It's a whole host of projects that are around getting you better developer productivity. Now, the CLI, though, actually replaced this one called Force CLI, which still does some things a little bit different. And one of the demos I'm going to show you is going to use Force CLI instead of Salesforce DX CLI. But I'll show you both. Lightning CLI is a static code analysis tool for Lightning components to work with Locker service. So if you're doing Lightning components, it's a useful thing. And then Heroku CLI for managing your Heroku app. So those are kind of all of the command line interfaces that Salesforce is supporting or that's kind of in the ecosystem. So let's just jump in right back to the Salesforce DX CLI. There we go. We'll clear. And SFDX is the command line, and then all of the things that correspond to your org are under the Force. Is that big enough? Can you guys see okay? Everyone see okay? Yeah. So SFDX Force, and what's cool is ASCII art. Everybody loves ASCII art. If I do SFDX Force -- help, however, I can see some of the commands that are actually all the commands that are available to me. And one of the additional features is something called a hub org. ISVs might be familiar with something like this, but you can basically manage your orgs from another org. So it's like sandbox management, but even better. Because what I can do is I can do something like SFDX Force org list. And this is giving me a list of all the orgs in my hub org. Let me do that and repeat it up at the top there. And the nice thing is I don't even need to know the usernames. That alias on the left-hand side, I can use that to log in to an org. So for instance, so I do SFDX Force org login -u. The first one there is called Blickstar. It's a long story. What did I do wrong? Force org open. That would be better. And it's going to actually go in. It has an OAuth token in the hub org. It's going to use that refresh token to get a new session, hopefully someday, if the internet cooperates with Salesforce. All right. I wonder if that's the problem. I'm still in presentation mode. Get out of show. All right. And I'm sensing my time is going to be up soon. Okay, it's that. Okay, let's try one more time. That's interesting. That sounds like some kind of, so let's cancel and try one more time. Force org open. I'm using the right command, aren't I? That sounds like an internet connection problem to me. Yeah. So it would be really cool to see me log into an org without even typing in a username and password. How awesome would that be? It is awesome, I promise you. So,
the internet connection is down.
Oh, internet is down. Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you. So, what can I do next?
If you want to test
I barely have time to. So I have like a minute. Yeah. So, so let me do this really quickly. Yeah. So the command I wanted to show, SFDX Force limits API display. minus help. So this actually, I can actually just have a command that will go in and report those limits to me. I can even do that, and then I can say just find a certain set of commands, like just show me my dashboard limits for today. And so you can just kind of get out only the information that you need. And to do that, because it gets a little bit wordy, I actually, alias, there we go. I created an alias. Remember I said aliases, you can sort of substitute something for something else. So this alias dash limit is doing this force limits API display, and then it's getting at the dream house, so it's a different org, and then it's saying go and get the dashboard lines from there. Thank you. So that's one thing I wanted to show. I'm going to try this really quickly. Another thing I want to show is with the force CLI. So if I do login, let's see if this works. And it doesn't appear to. Okay, that's exciting. I wonder if I can really quickly. So I can do this in a minute if I can really quickly switch over. Data, IT, that's good. Right. And so let's head it really quickly and see if I can manage this. Let's see. Am I connected? No, I'm still trying to connect. All right. Fail to. Okay. Well, so let's do. Do history, I'll just show the command because that'll be better than nothing. And then I'm going to grep for force query. Let's put some quotes around that. All right. So this is what I was going to show, which is this line right here. So this is doing a query in a CSV format. I pipe that to sed. Make it bigger. So sed. And I look for these empty quotation marks. So I'm going to look for a field that's null in my CSVs. I'm going to substitute that with customer direct. And then I redirect it to updates.csv. Okay? So all in one line, I've pulled data out, I've transformed it to the data I want it to be when I commit it back to Salesforce. And you can, I don't know if we can get all the way over there, but the last part of the command, there we go, is force bulk update account updates.csv. So all I do is then, again, still the same command, I go back and I grab the CSV file, I commit that back up to Salesforce. So way, way easier than going through an Excel spreadsheet. Now, granted, this will only work under certain circumstances, and the better you know the sed command, the more you can do. But I think this is the kind of thing that I want to get to and help people understand that if you can start to get even a basic grasp of how these things work, and with these command line tools, you can be super, super effective, whether you're a developer, whether you're an administrator, or somewhere in between. Okay? So let me just wrap up with my final slides here. These slides are posted on my SlideShare, which is just, I think just Chittum or PeterChittum. I'll double check that and tweet it out. Again, Windows versus Mac, there's some things that are different. Windows versus Unix, rather. There's some things that are different. So some things to learn, especially if you're new to Mac and you've known Windows, or vice versa. This is just kind of a litany of different tools that I think are effective. So there's other kinds of shells. Package managers are really useful. They're kind of like the app store of your command line. And then there's a few other things. You should get to know Git, for sure. That's really useful. A couple of things that I use to prepare for this and to learn some things is this brief history of command lines, and then there's a really good Windows and command line equivalence page. It will tell you that certain things you can't do exactly, but it kind of gives you workarounds for those. There we go, yeah, so slideshare.net/Chittum, that's me. My slides are up there from London's Calling, where I presented this as well. And then my demo script is in that public quip URL, so you're welcome to go and take a look at that and try those commands yourself. I don't think I have anything in there that should destroy anything, but I would strongly encourage you to learn and to read yourself, because 20, 30 minutes won't do it. So thanks very much, everybody.